So we're going to do some roughing operations to start with. So we're going to go to a 3-axis. We're going to go horizontal roughing. And by default, if you don't select anything for 3-axis roughing, the program already knows where the stock is. It already knows where the part is. So it'll figure out where to cut automatically. So you don't have to select anything. However, it's good to keep a containment area so that you don't end up cutting small areas and areas that you don't really need to be cutting. So we're going to go ahead and select this perimeter curve right here, okay, for the containment area. So we're only going to rough inside that area. So for a tool, we're going to go down here and select, let's see, what do we got here? A 7/5 inch, 3/4 inch flat end mill with the 0 corner radius, meaning it's a sharp, flat end mill. Feeds and speeds. If you have feeds and speeds set for the tool, you can pick the load from tool and it'll populate this dialog with the feeds and speeds that you have defined for the tool, or you can override these values and enter a different value and they will be saved with this specific operation itself. Okay, so we're not going to really set any different feeds and speeds. Those are all specific to your machine, your knowledge of your tools, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not going to dictate what to use. So for the clearance, it comes up with an automatic clearance distance. We're going to leave it set to automatic. For the clearance plane, it'll figure out a safe height. And then for the cut transfer methods, we're going to leave it set to clearance plane, where the tool will retract to this plane and then move to another location if it needs to. And the clearance plane is displayed in red here on the part. Okay, so let's go to the cut parameters for roughing. Now we're going to, by default, every operation, every parameter has a default value when you first install the product. So it makes it really easy for you to generate a quick operation. If you just want to select a containment, pick a tool, and generate, it'll come up with a tool path. Well, we're going to look at each parameter and see what we need to change if we need to change anything. So the in tolerance and out tolerance, the way the tolerance is calculated in 3-axis is different than it is in 2-axis. In 2-axis, the tolerance only applies in the X and the Y side walls, say a pocket, for example. In 3-axis, the tolerance is calculated across the surface contour of the surface. So which means you have the possibility of the tool to being outside of the stock or inside of the stock or the part, and you can set those tolerances, the inside tolerance and the outside tolerance individually. So by default, they're set to 10 thousandths. We'll leave that set for both the in tolerance and the out tolerance. And the stock allowance is the amount of material that's going to remain. The tool, any edge of the tool, in this case, the flat end mill, the corner, will be 25 thousandths away from any part surface. So down here, you've got 2 tabs, cavity pocket regions and core facing regions. If you think about the way your geometry is constructed, we have cavity pockets, obviously, because we have one large cavity. So the core facing will come in to play because inside the cavity, you have these bosses, which are considered cores. And we're going to go into the cut parameters. And we're going to look at any parameters that we want to set differently than the default values. For the cut pattern, we're just going to use an offset, so it's going to go around and around and around, offset from the perimeter that we have selected. There's a number of options that you can select here. I'm not going to tell you what each one of them is. If you want to, I don't have the little tooltips turned on, but when you run the product, you'll probably see a little tooltip that, oh, there it is, it's turned on. So if you're interested, just move the cursor over a perimeter, it'll tell you what it means. So we've got basically a mixed cut direction, and which means the tool is going to go back and forth. And you can set the start point, whether you want to start on the inside or the outside. We're starting on the inside. We've got a step over. Let's change that to 40%. Corner cleanup, we don't really need any cleanup on the corners for this roughing. We don't need an extra cleanup path. This is all for the cavity pocket region, so this applies to the cavity itself up here, and then you can go in and set different parameters as it gets around these bosses, but we don't need any specific changes in the toolpath there. So we're going to leave all that the same. For the cut levels, we're going to go ahead and clear flats, which means that if you have any flat areas like this lip right here is flat, this is flat, it'll put a toolpath right down on that surface. So we've got a step down. Let's go ahead and set that to 1/8 of an inch. And then we can do some step minimization, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do depth first. That's not going to apply here either. So for the engage and retract, we're just going to do a helical engagement, and then we can fit some arcs. And let's pick generate. So it's calculating where it can cut material contained within this these two perimeter curves right here. So it's only calculating inside the cavity itself. So here's the toolpath. If you want to look at each cut level, you can select the tool option, and you can select this little icon down here that says display tool levels, and it'll pop up a dialog, and you can look at each cut level in the toolpath as it works its way down. Okay. And then another good thing to do is you can double left click on the toolpath icon, and it will, if I can get it, there it is. It'll display the toolpath viewer / editor. If you're in the standard configuration or below, express or standard, you'll only see the tool motions. You won't have any of these tabs up here. If you're in the professional or higher, you have other tabs that you can do some actual editing on the toolpath at this point. But if you just want to see where the tool motions are, just start at the top and use the down arrow, and it'll locate the tool at the start point, and it'll just start going through the actual motions here if you want to do that. If you want to do it fast, you can hit the page down and it'll go really fast. So we don't really need to do any of that. We're just going to close that, and we're going to simulate the toolpath. So we'll go over to the simulate tab. We'll turn the toolpath off, and then we'll go ahead and check our simulation preferences. We got it set to fine. That's good. Stock, let's look at the stock material. These, you can set colors to the cut stock or the regular stock. Let's go ahead and change that. We'll cut the stock itself to a blue, and let's do the cut stock, say, to a lighter blue. Okay. And then you can also set the colors for edges, the silhouette edges or the sharp edges. If you want to see where the edges are on the part, we can go ahead and, for now, we can give them just a white color so we can see them, and we may turn them off. And you need to check these boxes if you want to see them on the part itself. So that's fine, and let's just go ahead and pick OK, and we'll just run the simulation. So that was pretty quick. You'll see that we have a number of step downs. If you turn the part on, you'll see that it cleared the flats on these areas right here, which is right on the part itself. Okay. And then also in the middle.